Hello, 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 world. Hello, this is Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And I ran across this video where podcaster April Chapman shared this young lady who was apologizing to conservative white people, according to what she says, because of some of the mean things she said that she had said. So, with that said, after listening to her, I said, I'm going to come in and address this because she's not the only person that I've heard apologizing for her own bad deeds or sins, whatever you want to call it, and bringing in the entire Black community. My thing is, when you do something to hurt others, you should be apologizing for yourself because the entire Black community had nothing to do with what you have done. And that's why I wanted to share this video with you. And today, I'm happy to say, is my 75th birthday. I'm so pleased and happy that God has spared me to be here for 75 years. And I started this podcast 2022 now. I believe it was January of 2022. And I started it to help to elevate our people to a higher level of consciousness. And this is not the first podcast. I had a podcast before with my son in California. We would go into the studio in Hollywood and we spoke with people all across the world of all ethnicities, and it was a great show. We did it for about 3 seasons or so. And then we went on a hiatus and I did some other things. He did some other things. And now my son, Kenan Mason of Kinetic Hour, has his own podcast and I have mine now, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And let me share this video with you and I will stop it periodically and explain to you a little bit further. And again, Louise Hicks, please subscribe, share, give it a like. And I appreciate all of my subscribers. I thank you so much for sticking with me and being here. And I'm working on another project, so I'm not in here as often as I should be. However, I come in and I'll be coming in a little bit more and I'll be sharing more with you, hopefully within the near future. But let me go ahead and share this with you. And let's hear what this young lady has to say. And this is April Chapman, and she's well known from what I understand. And I don't do the podcast just to be well known because I know there are lots of people out here that are doing podcasters for the money, it appears only because a lot of it is not uplifting, it's not upbuilding or anything. But here we go. Let's go ahead and share it.
Call me call me all types of names, but this video is specifically for white people. I just want to say that I apologize to you guys for being so mean to you guys over the years. I love you with all my heart. You guys have been some of the most nicest people that I ever met in my life. You guys are supportive. You guys are not haters. I can feel the love and support. You guys actually have a heart for people, and I'm not saying that everything that you do is perfect, but it's better than what I have experienced from my own Black community. And I just want to apologize for being mean to you, calling you all types of names, hating you when I walked past, giving you a hard time at certain places and staring you down and just being bitter, Black, and angry. I am so sorry. I was in a spirit of hatred, jealousy, sin. I was Satan's child, the devil's child. I was following the devil's way, play victim, do all this, that, and the third. Don't ever take any accountability. I want to apologize to you guys, man. White people, this video is for you.
Listen, I'm going to let her finish, but just on the onset, seeing a video like this come across my timeline it just warmed my heart. You don't come across a video like this every day. One, it is very difficult. Like, our sin is so blinding. The pride that wells up in each of us when we find out that we have transgressed the law of God, and you're in a position where you know, like the conviction of the Holy Spirit, you know that you should repent and apologize. Oftentimes, the war between your flesh and what you should do, oftentimes will win. But in a situation like this is reflective of a person who has a heart posture toward the things of the Lord, and who is so keenly aware of their sin. And they wanted to come and make a video and to declare publicly that they repent and that they apologize for their behavior toward white image bearers. I don't think I've ever seen a video like this. And the reason why this video, I think, is going to change a lot of people, because it's just sincere. It's sincere. This young woman is admitting that the white conservative, all of this time, for whatever reason, she thought they were the problem. It's not the white conservative. She's recognizing her own sin. She's admitting it, saying that it was me. I apologize for the hateful things that I've said, how I've made assumptions and presuppositions about you. And now that I've gotten an opportunity to get to know many of you, I was so wrong and I was so mistaken. And I feel that because when I was a leftist, I've been, since high school, I've spent a lot of time around white people. And I can't honestly say, outside of the one time that I got called the N-word in Spanish class in the 10th grade, that I can't say that I had significantly adverse experiences with white people because I was Black, right? I would say that I had some run-ins with white liberals that would kind of say some ignorant things. But when it came to like white conservatives, I didn't have any problem with white conservatives. I found so much agreement and camaraderie and just humanity, you know, with white conservatives. And I think it's interesting that this woman can make a video to say, I am sorry, and that I've gotten more love from you than I have from my own community. And she is telling the truth. Many of us are too prideful to even admit that all of the hatred and vitriol and just poor treatment that we've experienced, it hasn't been at the hands of people who don't look like us. It be your own people sometimes. I've gotten called more names: bootlicker, bed wench, Uncle Tom, sellout, I hate myself. It's the Black liberal, the Black leftist, the Black Democrat that has said the most hurtful, heinous, anti-God, anti-Christian things about me. I don't have problems. I don't have problems with white people. I really don't. It's them ninjas. That's the problem. I'm just going to put it out there and say it with my chest. But let us let her finish. I want to hear more of what she's going to say.
Okay, before she says more, I want to address her and April, because as I mentioned earlier, I've been around on this planet for 75 years as of today, March 4th, 2026. And let me stop sharing for a minute so you can see me. But I've been around for 75 years as of today, March 4th, 2026. And when I ran across this video and I listened to it, I commend this young lady for apologizing for any wrong or sins that she has done toward people that have done nothing to her. Because we have to come with a righteous heart. And that's what I come with. And I'm not going to address that all of my people are this, and this is the way this is coming across to me, that liberals, all Democrats are this and that is not the case. And I'm not a Democrat, nor am I a Republican. I was a Democrat when I first started voting. back when I was 18. However, as I went along and gotten more insight and started to check into the policies and the reactions of both parties, I decided in my 30s to become an independent voter because I did not want to be affiliated with either party because we're not perfect, none of us, and we all have our flaws. I do have an issue when anyone, regardless of what ethnic group you are, that you're putting every person in a specific ethnic group in the same category. And that's what I hear or see sometimes. And it appears that this young lady is coming across as lumping Black people who maybe she was mean to Black people too, that spoke with her. I don't know. But I can honestly say about myself that I have not been mean to any ethnic group that I have been in contact with. And believe me, I've worked on my jobs with all ethnic groups. And I cannot say what April Chapman has said, that I have not had any issues with white people. And I cannot say that I've not had any issues with Black people because I've had issues with all ethnicities, to tell you the truth, in my working environment. I've had some issues with Asians, Hispanics, whites, and Blacks. And that's part of the human experience that most likely, if you live on this earth, and if you live in America long enough, you most likely will have some issues with people that have not matured enough or that are just downright unrighteous or evil, regardless of the ethnic group that they are in. And I know as a Black person living in America, I've had some very harsh issues with some white people that was totally uncalled for, merely because of my intelligence. And I will give you an example. When I worked for the County of Los Angeles, and this is just one example, because I've worked in Texas too, and I can tell you that I've had some issues with Texas, not only whites, but some Blacks as well in Texas. It goes both ways. And you cannot regulate a person's heart. And the issue that I had that I'm going to share with you, I was going for an exam in the County of Los Angeles. We had a test. I passed the test. I was number one on the centralized list. And I wanted the department head job. I had been an exceptional worker, did my work, came to work, went above and beyond the call of duty, to tell you the truth. However, when it was time to interview, I did not get called in for an interview. I didn't even know they were interviewing. But God intervened. And there was a person that contacted me and advised me that an interview was going on. And a white man that was a little older than I was, because at the time I was only about 28 years old, but I had worked very hard and dedicated myself to my career. After finishing college, 4 years of college, put myself through college through working because my family could not afford it. And they interviewed this white man who did not pass the test. I was informed that he was not on the list, did not pass the test. I did. I was not going to get an interview. And I'm going to tell you about racism. It happens not only in the South, as some people may think, oh, South is so bad. This was in California, the County of Los Angeles. This white man was interviewed for the job, did not pass the test, and I was not going to get an interview. And this is how they do it. When they want someone, because I had been in management for a while, so I knew the personnel, I knew human resources, and I knew the ropes. And they will interview a person that they want to be that they want to give the job to. And they will put them in the position. And what they will do is called an exam with just a rating of record. And all you have to do is go in and verbally speak. Now, I must say, this gentleman did not do the best work because I would review some of his work and it was not exceptional or excellent. His work was not good. So I called the administration and I asked them, I understand that you're having interviews and I'm on the list. Why didn't I get called for an interview? And of course, they hem-hawed around, but I did get an interview and I got the job because I had earned it. I had worked my behind off to get that department head position. And this white man came into my face and took his finger like this and shook his finger in my face and said to me, and I'm pretty much verbatimly quoting, "Lady, I should have got that job." So I just looked at him. I'm young, 28 or so, and he was older, probably maybe 40-ish. I would suspect. I didn't know his exact age. And I just looked at him and said, "Well, I passed the test and you didn't. So what makes you think you should have gotten the job over me?" And he went further to tell me, "Well, I went out this weekend and shot up a bunch of ducks." And in my head, I'm thinking, well, he probably wanted to shoot me instead of some ducks. So I'm just kind of thinking back because we're talking years ago. I've been retired since I was 55 and I'm 75 now because I planned my life. And that's what I will talk about later. I'm going to do a different show about designing your own life so that you can have a better outcome. However, like I said, I got the job because they knew at that point, if they had given that job to him, they would have had a lawsuit on their hand. But that's white privilege. He felt because he was a white male or whatever, that whether he passed the test or not, and his work was not up to par, that he should have gotten the job over me. And I passed the test, plus my work was impeccable, exceptional. And I had been a supervisor. He had not been a supervisor as far as my knowledge goes to this day. I do not know, but I know I was a supervisor in the department at the time. So, with that said, my point is we need to stop categorizing all Black people, all white people, all Asian, all Hispanics. We need to stop putting everybody in the same bag. If you want to discuss something, go ahead and talk about it, but relate it to yourself and stop putting everybody in that ethnic group in the same category because some of us do have a heart and some of us are fair. We live the best we can with our imperfect self. So, with that said, let's go ahead and listen to more. But I just wanted to elaborate on that because I see bias here on April Chapman's part, as opposed to her talking more objectively. So, let's go ahead and play some more of the video so you can hear the rest of it. And I will elaborate some more.
Say.
I want to say you are loved, you are respected, and you don't deserve to be treated the way that you are being treated today. This is insane. Like, I'm really seeing how racist that Black people are. Black people are racist as crap now. Now,
Facts. All of the racism that you see in the public square.
Okay, let me stop it right there. That is not a fact. And I'm unapologetic about it. Putting all Black people in a racism category. In fact, Black people are not economically sound, maybe prejudiced or bigoted, because there's a difference. Racism, a lot of us need to understand racist and racism, prejudice, bigoted. There's a difference. A lot of us are prejudiced. We might like a certain flavor of ice cream, a prejudice against somebody because of what they look like or whatever. Or you could be a bigot. But racist, Economically, we don't own anything in this country. We have no power. Racism is about power, as far as I'm concerned, and having economic empowerment over others. And as collectively, Black people don't have any power in America collectively. So let's stop that right there before we go any further with it, because this lady is putting all Black people in the same category. And I resent that. And I'm unapologetic about, because if you have a righteous minded heart, you're going to treat people the way you want to be treated, regardless of their skin color. If they treat you right, you should be treating them right. So let's go ahead and let her finish.
Where and in most interactions, it is going to be a Black person doing it against a white person. I'll never forget, I was in a grocery store and this white lady was in line and this EBT queen just came up behind her, and they both were kind of, the white woman was actually already in line, but the way she was standing, it was a little confusing. But instead of the EBT queen kind of as just asking her, she just hurled off and started cussing a woman out, talking about, it's always this, y'all always think y'all could just jump in front of people and do what you want to do. Didn't you see I was standing here? I mean, this chick went off. And it made me so angry. It took everything in me not to say something. And finally, I couldn't hold my peace anymore. And I was just like, did it really take all of that? I said, I was standing here and she was already standing here. I could see how it was confusing, but did it really take all of that aggression? And finally, the store management came over to try to figure out what was this lady's problem. I mean, she was calling her all kinds of white bees and speaking in these racist generalities, talking about y'all this and it always be this. And I was like, yeah, see, and the poor white lady, you know, she really couldn't defend herself because, one, she couldn't get a word in edgewise to even explain. But it was just like, if anything, I could see how the climate that we're living in today doesn't make more. I could see how it could make white people want to be more racist, because this is just ridiculous. The racism that you see from Blacks toward whites, how they're so flippant and free to say all kinds of racist, disparaging things without being held accountable for it. They don't even lose their job for it, but let a white person say something, you better believe their entire life is ruined.
I really appreciate the Black girls and my Black brothers who act just like me, free and just love people and just children of God, just free from the delusion of Satan. I love those types of Black people. I love those free thinkers, those truth tellers. I love those types of Black people, but there are two types, and I am talking about the other type, okay?
Listen, when I tell you my people are the ones who do the will of the Father, those are my people. And they come in all stripes, colors, and ethnicities. But I feel her when she says, you know, I love my Black people who are truth tellers and who just walk in the light and are just out here not wanting to be on some slave plantation being told how to think and what to think, but just independent thinkers. I feel her on that. Those are the types of people that I find so much agreement with. But it's the other kind of Black people. They're actually the ones that have issues with people like us. They absolutely hate the fact that there could be a Black person who refuses to follow the prevailing narrative and who chooses to think for themselves. The reason why that bothers them so much, because they have no point of reference for what it's like to function in their freedom. They prefer the victimhood, the victim.
Okay, let's stop right there. Because when I hear people address issues like this, it's just ridiculous, for the lack of a better word. Because again, I can hear bias, I see bias, and this young lady, I commend her for her addressing how she's treated people, because nobody deserves to be mistreated. If they're treating you with character, respect, you should treat them the same with character and respect. And as to April mentioning about the woman in the store, I understand what she is saying because that can happen, but it can go both ways. I'm telling you, it's not necessarily that Black people are hateful and mean. And you're talking about, she did say some of her brothers and her sisters. You don't know what kind of day that lady may have been having. You don't know what has transpired in her life to cause her to feel the way she felt. And it maybe one day she will come to a realization that she shouldn't be treating people that way. Because let me give you another example of what I encountered as a teacher's aide in California when I was in college. And as I said, I have a bachelor's degree in social work. So I'm pretty good with people, even though I've done careers in information system. I did work in social work for a short while. But let me give you an example of what I have encountered. This was in elementary school. I was in a second grade class in Long Beach, California. I won't name the school. However, it was a predominantly white school. And these kids loved me. They would come up, "Hi, Miss Hicks," give me a hug and everything. And they were very kind, very loving kids because they saw the love that I shared. It didn't matter with me about what skin color they were. It was about who they were and the behavior that they exhibited. And these little girl and one little girl, I won't call her name because I did run across her years later when she was in high school and she remembered me, but I did not remember her. So you can leave a lasting impact upon people. Anyhow, I went to their class, what do they call it? The back to school night. And the teacher had asked me, very nice teacher I worked with too, as a teacher's aide. She had asked me, could I come and assist her? And I said, sure, I can come and assist you. So anyhow, prior to that night, I was taking driver's lessons because I was tired of getting the bus. And I said, oh, I'm working part-time now. Maybe I can save enough money to get me a car, get my license and everything. So I was really happy. And this little girl, I was waiting for my driver's instructor, and she came up to talk to me. And she says, Miss Hicks, why are you still out here? Because they were on recess. And I said, oh, I'm waiting for my driver's instructor because I'm taking driver's lessons. And she gave me a hug and she said, oh, okay. She says, is he a nigger like you? And I said, what? I mean, it kind of took me, uh, let me stop sharing for a minute. It kind of took me for a loop because she says, I said, what? And she says it again. Is he a nigger like you? And I said, why do you say that? And she says, because my mom said, people like you are niggers. And I said, your mom told you that? And she said, yes, my mom said, people like you are niggers. And she didn't think anything of it. Like I said, these are second graders. That's why I said this behavior is learned. People are taught hate and evil. And that's one thing I raised three children, and my children would tell you, I never taught them to be hateful and evil toward anybody else. They would play with kids of all ethnic groups because we lived in a diverse neighborhood at the time in Long Beach, California. So, anyhow, I told her, I said, well, you know what? I am not a nigger. And I'm using the word rather than N word because I want this to reflect the actual situation. And I said, well, you let your mother know that I'm not a nigger and that niggers are ignorant people, something to that effect I shared with her. And I said, I'm so sorry that you had to hear your mother tell you that because that's not who I am. And she said, okay, she smiled because she didn't know any better. And she gave me a hug and said bye. Recess was about over. My driver came and I went on for my driver's training. So a few weeks later, like I said, we had the open house night or either back to school night. And her mother and her came. And I think to her mother's surprise, she was not expecting to see me. And she walks in the room with her daughter. And you should have seen that lady. If you could change colors, I think she probably turned beet red pretty much. because she was not. And that gave me the clue that her daughter had told her exactly what I said. And I said, she's not going to say anything to me, most likely. And she didn't. She avoided me the whole time she was in the classroom. And the child, almost said her name, the child didn't say anything that night either. So maybe her mother had told her not to speak to me anymore, not to say, I don't know. But I know she didn't say anything. And maybe she had spoken with her mother, obviously, because her mother made sure she had no contact with me that night at all during the time she was in the classroom exploring what the kids had done and so forth. So that, I'm telling you, this, you don't know what this lady encountered. And that's one of the skills that we need to learn as people, that you don't necessarily judge a book by its cover, because you don't know what could have transpired to cause this lady in the supermarket to do what she did. And I remember one time Dr. Joy DeGruy was talking. If you don't know who she is, she's a very well-known psychologist. And Dr. Joy DeGruy shared an incident when she was in the supermarket and how she was treated as opposed to a white person asking for an ID. If I remember that conversation with her, asking for an ID and let the white woman have a pass. So we don't know what this person had encountered that caused her to go off on this white woman, which was wrong, because two wrongs just doesn't work well, so to speak. So anyhow, I can hear here this bias from Miss Chapman, and being whoever she is, I don't know her and she doesn't know me. However, I I see where she's coming from and I hear her, because you're kind of putting Democrats in the same bag as well. And all Democrats are not the same. There are some Democrats, because I know some who are not on a slave plantation, as you would say. I do know some that aren't on the slave. They might be Democrats, but they aren't on any, they are not on any slave plantation. And the slave plantation can be Republican as well as Democrats, so to speak, about the policies and their behavior toward Black people. Because if we had politicians that were doing what they are supposed to do, and we had this equality in the United States, we wouldn't have all these problems we're having. And it's been going on since the inception of slavery, because the America was found on a pretense that we're not even human beings, we're property. So let's go ahead and listen to the rest of this. But I had to share this once I ran across it, because it's just too much bias and just name calling people. And we all perish for lack of knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge, you're going to perish for lack of knowledge, and that's scriptural. So go ahead and speak.
Mentality, running in the victim Olympics, they get comfort from that. And it's because, like I say, they have an inferiority complex. They believe that white people are the standard, that the white man is God. And so, therefore, they don't know what to do with individuals who are not always chasing behind and worried about what white people are doing and trying to get white people to bow down and comply to whatever it is that they want. They don't know what to do with the free thinking Negro. We confuse the heck out of them.
I don't.
Now, let me speak and address that. I am a free speaking, free speaking Black person, not, because we don't call ourselves Negroes anymore. I don't call myself an African American, because an African American can be a white person. We know what's that man's name that was helping Trump. He's from South Africa and he's African American, but he's not Black. So that's why Black people have delineate themselves. And this came about with a conversation that I had with one of my college friends. We talked about that when the terminology African American first came out. And I said, how are we going to distinguish ourselves if we're calling ourselves African American? And this was back in the 80s. So now Black people have started to delineate, and we call ourselves Black folks, Black people. So all of this that Miss Chapman is talking about, or April Chapman, and it appears she's condoning everything this lady is saying. And I do commend this woman for coming forward, because if you were mean-spirited and you grew up in some kind of way that maybe you were steered to be hating on white people, and you shouldn't be hating on anybody, really, from my perspective, because if you have a righteous heart, why would you hate anybody? And we know it's so much evil in America right now until it's just ridiculous, all the hate and evil that's going on. However, we just have to keep our heart the way it should be, have a righteous heart. And let's let her finish.
I don't like saying the N word too much because it's like, it's irritating. But anyway, but those are the black people that I'm talking about as far as like.
She talking about the men's. Okay, now she's not comfortable using the N word, and I understand some people are very sensitive to that terminology, but you listen, this is a family-friendly show, and I will refrain from using it, but she's absolutely talking about the men's, the ninjas. Yes.
They're haters, they're bitter, they blame everybody for everything but themselves, and it's just insane. So I just want to say I apologize because I was so mean to you guys. You guys are really blessed, man. Since you guys are so kind, I can see the fruits in your life. Like, you guys show kindness, and it like comes right back to you. I'm trying to be like that when I grow up. It's not even about, I don't care what people call me. I say the truth. You guys have been the nicest people I've ever met in my whole entire life, yo. The most nicest people. I just cannot believe that you guys, it's just crazy. There is no reason for anybody to be evil to a white person today in this time. They were born the same time that we were born. You guys were born the same time I was born. There's no reason for anybody black to treat you wrong. No reason at all.
Basically, she's saying you have no excuse. You have no point of reference for being treated a certain way by white people for you to be then in turn trying to treat white people a certain way. You were born during the same time. All of us are living in the now in this generation. You didn't grow up in Jim Crow. You have no concept of what it meant to be.
Excuse me. Some of us did grow up in Jim Crow, and that's why I'm saying, what is wrong with you? You may not have grown up in Jim Crow. However, many of us did, and we're still alive today. As I stated, I am 75 years of age as of today. 75 as of today, March 4th, 2026. And I grew up in the Jim Crow era. And we're still living in an era of discrimination. I mean, I have endured it. I just gave you a story about my situation in Los Angeles County, as well as I've also experienced it here in Texas, right here, where I had to go and file a complaint. And I was in a lead position. But because if you are an intelligent Black person, and I know people that have experienced the same thing, and you treat others with respect, and they don't like you, because I can give you a story here in Texas where in my employment, I cannot mention where. However, I'm not there anymore. I was there. Not that I had to work, because I retired when I was 55. And it wasn't because I had to work, because I didn't. And I gave ideas, and my ideas were stolen and given as if it was the white man's idea. And it was to improve productivity. And the same thing happened with me in Los Angeles County. I gave ideas. However, I had a Hispanic boss at that time, and he would take my ideas as if they were his. So don't tell me anything about who grew up in the Jim Crow era. But that didn't make me a mean-spirited person toward white people, because I had one white boss. She was really a great boss. She was young at the time, and so was I, but she was a great boss. And then I had one that was a horrible boss, a white woman. She was horrible. And a lot of it was jealousy and envy. So don't tell me anything. And it's not a one off with me. I know other people. I know this friend of mine, she started her own business. She had a very brilliant woman, had issues in corporate America because just because you are out here, many of these podcasters are out here, and if you want to speak, speak. But stop throwing every Black person under the bus just because you want to make money doing what you do. I'm not out just for the money. It's nice to make money on your podcast, and I have no problem with that, with anybody making money. However, when you want to make money judging other people, when you don't know what you're talking about, or you just speaking just to make somebody else feel comfortable, because that happened. It happened to me with a Black woman on the job here in Texas. She wanted to make white people and other ethnic groups feel comfortable, so she spoke against Black people. And this stuff happens. People are not perfect. I just, all I want to do is do what's right and treat people the way I want to be treated and be as fair as I can as an imperfect human being because nobody is perfect and we all make mistakes. And for this young woman to be out here apologizing, I commend her for that. But why go and try and make all Black people look bad or make us look like, oh, you Black people, y'all just in a different category. I have a few over here that are like me. And that's how April Chapman sounds. It's a few over here that's like us, but the rest of y'all. And that is not the case. It is not true. And I'm just telling it like it is, unapologetically speaking up and speaking out. Because when I hear these things and living on this planet for 75 years, probably old enough to be this young woman's, I don't know who she is, probably old enough to be her, maybe her grandmother, because I'm 75 as of today. Probably old enough to be April's mother. I don't know how old she is, but I'm 75 and she definitely doesn't look like she's old enough to be my peer. So, I mean, I've lived this stuff. You guys are reading about it, are hearing about it, but I've lived it. My mother lived it. My grandmother, they would share stories with me. So we got to get away from this. If we are to elevate ourselves and move in unity and try and bring more harmony into the society, we need to get away from this type of behavior. Just to say, oh, well, I'm going to get on this show. I'm going to get on that show. I'm going to go on Fox News. Oh, I remember, what's that other guy's name? Anton Daniels. I remember him being on Fox News and talking, and he has a bias. He speaks bias as well and speaks against Black people sometimes, saying things that, from my perspective, and I'm speaking up and speaking out from a social work perspective and standpoint, because I do have a degree in social work and I do study people. So let's let her go ahead and finish. But once I saw this, I said, let me go ahead and speak on this because I'm just listening to this and I'm saying, all Black people are not on the plantation. You got the Republican plantation, just like you have the Democratic plantation, if you want to call them a plantation. So let's go
Jim
ahead.
Crow South. You have no concept of what it meant to live near the KKK. And even still, even if you heard a story or two, that is not your lived experience. You have no point of reference for that. So where does all of the vitriol and the hatred and the animosity come from? It is manufactured outrage. You were told to be this way because the Democrat leftist political machine has spent a lot of time and money indoctrinating you with Marxist thought, critical race theory, perpetually putting these artificial grievances in front of your face to emotionally manipulate you into a frenzy to make you hate people who've done nothing to you. She is so right. There is no reason or excuse for you to actually hate white people today en masse because they've done nothing to you. I felt that.
Unless you purposely did something to them personally. But there's no reason why you should pay for whatever your ancestors did years, centuries ago.
And then the assumption is that if you are white and are conservative and you come from a long line of conservatives, the false assumption is that somebody's great great grandmama and them were racist and slave owners. That is some crazy assumption when only a small percentage of white Americans in this country actually own slaves. And if your contention is with that, do you have the same energy for Black free men, the freedmen, who some of which owned other Black slaves? Notice how we hardly ever hear anyone talk about the Black Americans who also owned slaves, or the Indians, the Native Americans, those indigenous people you love to celebrate. Nobody ever talks about how they too owned slaves. So when she talks about, I just think I wanted to stop it and highlight the inconsistency in which Black people alive today are trying to hold white people accountable for the sins that they assume their ancestors are guilty of, when they have no knowledge or a way to verify that. And then it's also based on the false assumption that all white people own slaves. And that's,
I see, that's not true either. That's when Black people are talking, we already know that some Blacks did own the freedmen and all of that. Many Black people, I'm not going to say most, many Black people are aware of that. The conversation is around chattel slavery. And that's what you're failing to mention, April. And I don't know how much this young lady know and how much research you're doing. But Black people that are talking about, if you're hinting on reparations, it's about chattel slavery. And our forefathers and mothers and their children, the treatment of them, and not only the treatment, the torture, they're talking, and we're talking about chattel slavery, where our foreparents worked for free. Now, are you working for free on your podcast? Are you working for free, young lady? If you have a job somewhere, nobody works for free, and especially under the most severe circumstances of beatings, rapes, castrations, hangings. And who's benefiting from that today? Insurance companies, banks, the families of those who were slave owners, who we were property of. So do your homework and stop trying to, and I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm just calling it like it is. And that's what you're not doing. You're sugarcoating, you're talking about something that has nothing to do with what Black people are discussing when it comes to reparations. Nobody works for nothing. And who's benefiting from all of the work, torture that our forefathers went through on ships? Even some white people are out here discussing this now, being more open with it because they have done some homework and research. And here's some of our Black people out here, you're just trying to circumvent something so that you can be seen and so you can make money at the expense of our forefathers who went through hell of slavery. And not only that, Jim Crow, mass incarceration. And I know because I've been through it. So you can't sit there and say, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about because I have been there, done that, know all about it, being 75. And I'm thankful to God today that I am 75. I don't have any hate in my heart against anybody. I treat people the way I want to be treated. And that's how, if we all did that, we wouldn't have all this division in America. And just because slavery happened, it has continued to a certain extent. You just don't see the shackles and the chains now. And I'm speaking on what I know. And that has continued until this day. I just experienced it here in Texas. I experienced it in California. And not just in the workplace, I've experienced in housing, in education. And we're talking 20th, 21st century. I can give you another example of how the thought process is because of what has happened to a lot of young people, what they're taught. When we were building our home here in Texas, when the delivery person came out to deliver something, and we have a beautiful home here, and the person wanted to know he's deceased now, but they asked him, uh, where's the owner? So I can tell, oh, looking around. He couldn't be the owner. This young white delivery person from Home Depot was looking around to find out, oh, where's the owner? Oh, so I can find out where to deliver this. I think it was some wood or something, where to deliver it to. Because, of course, he couldn't be the owner now because the perception, and that's where we have these issues, perception of people. We need to stop that. And it comes from all different ethnics. And in California, it's no different. I had one of my staff because I trained and I ran a division, not a department at the time. I have run departments as well in California, but I ran a division at the time. And one of my staff members went out to do some training because people were calling. I guess you could say I was kind of like a hidden figure because I implemented the first comprehensive computer program in the county of Los Angeles, where other departments were calling and wanted my staff to come and train their staff. And I taught myself and I trained staff myself initially, the administrative staff. Anyhow, my staff came back, one of my subordinates, and told me that one of the white gentlemen came up and asked her, did she know where the instructor was? Now, here she was dressed in a beautiful suit, groomed professionally, and he wanted to know from her where was the instructor, because of course she couldn't be the instructor. No way. So it's perception. We need to stop these stereotypes of people. It's gone on too much, and it's still going on. Just recently, a black doctor, was at a convention. This was shared with me by the mother of the doctor, was at a convention. And one of the other doctors came up, I believe it was another doctor, and wanted to know from her, because she couldn't have been the doctor. She had to be a staff. So they were asking her some questions about something, had nothing to do with what they should have been asking her about, was she a doctor or something? But no, they just assumed that she was some type of staff helping out. So they were asking the help, so to speak. Remember that movie, The Help, if you saw that? So they were asking about the help. And I decided to do this one, I guess, today because it had run across my feed. And I said, I got to do this because I listened to that and I said, oh my God, this is ridiculous. People are people and nobody is perfect. And we have our issues. And a lot of this stuff is ingrained in people. White people, a lot of them teach their children. Nobody's born with hate in their heart. This stuff is taught. And that's what we need to get away from. And I'm so happy to hear some people speak up and speak out. Well, I know Jane Elliott is one of them. She did some class one time and she was asking people, would they want to be Black or treated like Black people, something to that effect. And so when I hear people like this talking, and you're just one-sided or you have all this bias like what I'm hearing on this particular podcast, is ridiculous. So anyhow, let's move forward and let me go back so we can wrap this up. But I just had to come in and share some vital points on this podcast.
It's just historically inaccurate.
You don't deserve that. You deserve to be treated with respect and love just like everyone else. And I'm specifically making this video for my white people because I was never mean to Mexicans. I was never mean to Asian, Chinese people, Africans, etc. I was never mean to any other nationality or race. Only white people. I was only mean to white people. So this is an apology video. I am deeply sorry if you encountered me in Baltimore, somewhere in Maryland, and I was mean to you. I am sorry, and I actually apologize on behalf of how you guys are being treated now by the Black community. It sucks. It's disgusting. It's nasty. It's embarrassing. I have Black fatigue. I'm tired of...
Now, see, she mentioned this is the part that really got me the most because she said by the Black community. And I have to tell you, miss, you were mean to white people. You need to apologize for yourself, your unrighteous behavior. But stop throwing the Black community, the whole Black community, in your sinful behavior. If you want to apologize, I don't have any issue with that. I commend you on that. You can apologize all you want to the people that you've been mean to, but don't put all Black people in the same category. And as far as you, April, talking about victims, all Black people aren't going around here claiming to be victim. We may have been victimized because I know I have been, but I don't claim to be a victim because I stand up for myself. I believe in standing up and speaking out. And I have a cup here that I usually share sometimes. And I will bring this cup up. Let me stop sharing so I can bring this cup. Because I bring this cup up here. And this is who I am. I believe in speaking up and speaking out when I'm mistreated. And believe me, I have gone through discrimination on my jobs, in housing, as I mentioned, and in education, job market, housing. I mean, the house I bought in Downey, California, when we bought the house back in 1999, they had to change the covenant and deed restrictions because no Black person could live in that neighborhood. And you're going to tell me there were hateful Black people that hated white people? That's why they seemed it was the reverse. I say that because they had in the deed restrictions, you can come in and work. You could work for them, but you couldn't live there. And they had to change that we were the second or third owner to purchase this home in Downey, California. And they had to literally literally change the deed restrictions before we could buy that house because that particular neighborhood stipulated that no Black people could live in there, only white people. No Black people could live in that neighborhood. Maybe some other people, I don't recall for sure, but I know no Black people could live in it. You could work in it. You can come to work for them, be their maid, housekeeper, but yard person, most likely. But no, you couldn't work there. And we're talking 1999, 20th century. And the homes were built in the 1940s, late 40s. I think it was built in 1949, if I'm not mistaken, but I know it was in the 40s. And that was before I was born because I was born in 1951. So when you talk like that, April, you have not lived, honey. Maybe you have not experienced anything. And maybe you have. I don't know. You mentioned a couple of things, but I have the experience being 75 today, March 4th, 2026. I am 75 years of age and I have lived it. I've seen my mother, what she has gone through, how she was treated, my father, how he was treated. So don't tell me anything that about you judging some lady in the grocery store because you don't know what that lady had gone through. And another story I want to share with you quickly about the little girl that I told you about in the second grade. I was at a religious convention several years later, and I had gone to the stand. It was a big convention. I had gone to the stand to pick up some popcorn or soda. I can't remember what it was because this was some time ago. And I heard somebody say, Miss Hicks, Miss Hicks. And I looked around, it was this young white girl. I didn't know who she was. And she was saying, Miss Hicks. And she said, You don't remember me? And I said, No, I don't. I said, But apparently you remember me. And she told me her name. And when she told me her name, I remembered her. So you can go from being in the second grade to being in high school. At that time, she was either 10th or 11th grade. But she remembered me. I left an impact upon that child. And she was at the religious convention with her parents, mind you. So who knows? Maybe I had an impact upon her parents by what she told her parents. Maybe her mother had a change of heart on who we were as Black people, that we weren't just niggers, because as far as I'm concerned, a nigger can be an ignorant person. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I don't like the word personally, and I don't even use it unless I use it in a context like this where I'm getting a point across. But it's ridiculous how some of us, we create problems rather than solving problems. We create, instead of finding solutions, we look for something to put us out there and make us appeal more to a certain group or ethnic group or so forth. And I don't do that. I try my best to work from a righteous perspective. However, I started this podcast, as I said, to help elevate my people to a higher level of consciousness because we perish for a lack of knowledge. And when I say we, I don't just mean Black people, I mean all people. We perish for a lack of knowledge because we don't get to know who the other person is. And once you get to know, I mean, there are evil, bad people in all ethnicities. Look at the Epstein files and all of those people in there and what they're saying is going on. That's evil and it's hateful. And we don't need that. So let's get back to it. And I think it's about to wrap up and see. But this is so, I had to bring this to you because when we listen to some of these people and some of these podcasts, I can see why we have this divisiveness. So let's go ahead.
My own people, I'm sorry. Irritated, disgusted. This is sick, okay? I don't like it. That's why they don't like me now, because I'm calling out all this stuff. And do you know what's crazy? The same people that don't like me now because I'm calling out all of their foolishness, it's the same people I was cool with, and they secretly didn't like me then. They would hate on me. I would feel the spirit of jealousy from them. I would feel the spirit of hate from them. I would just feel so much hate and jealousy from my own people. I remember growing up, man, they used to say people in my family, friends, people even in my family were like, ew, she too Black. Ew, she too dark. Black people that I have encountered all my life will say, ew.
It be your own people, don't it? It be your own people,
And
sis.
and let's say this, do you know where that colorism came from? And see, we make these statements without doing any research, any homework. Where did the colorism come from? When our people were over there, the ones that they forced over here, Black people didn't come from Africa deliberately or free spirited, feeling good about coming over here. Some of them jumped overboard. Some of them were, I mean, it was horrible how these people live. And do you know why colorism exists? I've been called that you're talking about by some of my peers in high school. But it came from slavery with the incest, lighter skin, darker skin, the having the sons, daughters to create more slaves, incest, forced incest. And you have to realize where all of this behaviors, where are the behaviors coming from? Go read Dr. Claude Anderson, some of his books. he brings out, and not only him, there are others too that bring out the miseducation. You need to go and educate yourself on some of these behaviors and why they exist. Dr. Joy DeGruy has a book here called Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Let me stop sharing so you can see this book. And I spoke about Dr. Claude Anderson. This book, Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome, Dr. Joy DeGruy. And she shares a lot of this information, why some of these behaviors exist. Somebody that's been traumatized for over 200 years, and then you raise traumatized kids because you never got any healing or any therapy. What can you expect? And see, that's not what you April, you're here, right on, sister, and all of this, but you're not being righteous minded. Let's put it that way. From my perspective, you're not being righteous minded because you're not talking about some of the root causes of why these behaviors exist. And another book, Dirty Little Secrets. Some of this is by Dr. Claude Anderson as well, Dirty Little Secrets. And also, this podcast is being a little longer than I anticipated. However, when I ran across this, I said, I have to speak on this. Black Labor, White Wealth. I mean, Dr. Claude Anderson. And there are so many other books. One called The Miseducation. Who wrote that book? Let me see if I have that one. I don't see that one. I don't see that one. Sorry about that. I was looking to see if I had that in my office here, but I don't see it. The Miseducation, I'm trying to think, was that Dr. and Henrietta Lacks? This is another one, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Have you ever heard of her? How they stole her. I do a lot of reading and a lot of research, but you can look up that other book, The Miseducation of the Black Man. I think that's the title of it. But this is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, how her cells were stolen and they created, because she had some living cells and they had not seen that, and they used her cells illegally without her permission and to help others. However, her family did sue. I don't know what the outcome was of the suit, but this happened back in, I don't remember what year it was, but it was in the 20th century, if I'm not mistaken, in the 20th century, I believe. And I'm not sure what year it was, but it's The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. And her family had a lawsuit. I don't know whether it ended, how it ended. I can't recall right now. But we need to read more and do more research instead of just getting on here throwing stuff out like you throw it to the wall and you think it's going to stick. And for educated people who do their research, that's not going to happen. It's not going to stick. So when I heard this is why I'm bringing it out. So here we go.
I'm just, when I say I am happy and celebrating the freedom that she is now experiencing, and the free flow, that the way that she's able to flow freely with admitting that I was sinful and I was wrong, and it was just unacceptable for me to act this way. She just seems so much lighter in terms of that weight of heaviness that so many liberal leftists walk around in. You can tell that she's no longer weighed down by that. She's pleasing in her personality. She probably got a little bit more joy now that she done let all this foolishness go. But I thought it was interesting that she said the ones that I experienced the most adversarial, just contentious relationship with was my own people. Black folks can be very critical to one another, and I get it. Some people will say, well, it's the proximity thing, and I'm sure white people are harsh on other white people too. I don't see why this is a thing. No, there's something different about when you are an ethnic minority in a nation and y'all go out of your way to purposely bring your other own kind down, not for something that their behavior It's not because of their behavior is inappropriate or it needs to be called out or they need to be held accountable. Just because they exist, because there's jealousy, because there's a covetous heart inside that person. A lot of times that is the reason why the hatred comes. It's just jealousy, envy, covetousness, just wanting what they have, or because they lack joy and they don't have contentment, they want to project that onto others. A lot of times that's what it is.
She too dark, she too black. So when I was a kid, right, I experienced a lot of colorism because in the summertime I would play outside a lot. Back in the day we used to play outside. In the early 2000s we were still able to play outside and have fun, so I would get really black. They'd be like, ew, you black, ew. I've never, not one time, I can't even count on my one finger where a white person ever said, ew, she too black. I never heard a white person called me the N-word. And y'all, I'm a hustler. I worked for Amazon delivery, VHO delivery, DoorDash, everywhere in Maryland. And Maryland can be a very racist state sometimes out the countries. And y'all, I experienced probably racism about like 2 times. Y'all. But I can't even count on my 2 hands how much the black community has traumatized me, made me fall into depression, made me want to off myself. So many destructive things that I've went through.
Let me say this to you, young lady. The way you have described yourself, maybe, just maybe, and I'm saying maybe from what I'm hearing, from a psychological point of view, that you could have been exhibiting that same type of behavior toward these people, Black people that you are referring to, that caused them to exhibit that behavior toward you. Because you're saying how mean you were to white people and you had no reason to be. So maybe you owe an apology to some of those people. Maybe you're in denial, or either you have a lack of knowledge to understand how you were treating them that caused them to behave the way they did toward you. Because in listening to you, it sounds like you had some issues with people in general, from the way you are saying how these people were so mean to you, these Black people. Perhaps you're overlooking your own indiscretions and not holding yourself accountable for some of your behavior toward them. I haven't heard you say you weren't mean, unless I missed it. I haven't heard you say you weren't mean to them. So maybe you need to take a good examination of yourself as well and check out your spirit in terms of your behavior toward these Black people that you were talking about. I know you said you weren't mean toward, I think you said Mexicans or Hispanics, and I think you may have mentioned Asians or something. But the people that you're saying that were so mean to you, the Black ones, what was your treatment toward them? Were you mean toward them like you were the white people? Because maybe you need to examine yourself as well and hold yourself accountable for some of your behavior, because none of us is perfect. We all have our faults and our imperfections. So we need to sometimes just sit back and evaluate ourselves and see what we might be in denial about. And you too, April, as far as I'm concerned, maybe you need to take a look at yourself, because you're doing a lot of critical, judgmental behavior toward Black people as well. And maybe you need to think about it. You were saying how people treat people, but look at how you're acting and how you're talking about your own people, Black people. And a lot of us are perishing for lack of knowledge. And if you can't uplift, I mean, I remember my grandmother telling us, if you don't have anything nice to say about a person, why talk about them at all? And if you're going to do something, try and give a solution. Maybe you can help that person to elevate them to a higher level of consciousness. And maybe we can have more harmony if all of us would evaluate ourselves on how we treat other people and what we say about other people. Because a lot of times people are not jealous of you when you think they are, they're not. It may be your perception that they're jealous of you because maybe you're thinking more highly of yourself than what they are thinking even about you. I mean, we have to really take accountability and responsibility for ourselves as well. And some of us don't do that. So let's see if we can finish this
in the
up.
Black community, and I'm glad to be a loner. I'm glad to be a realist. I'm glad to be a black sheep. I'm glad to be free from the chains and the shackles of them people, man. I pray for them all the time, but just like I do with my family, I block everybody. But I just want to say, white people, I apologize. My name is Cheryl Foster. I am from Baltimore, Maryland, born and raised. My mom's side of the family is from Trinidad and Tobago. And I just want to say that I am so sorry for being mean to you guys, and I was under the spirit of Satan. Okay? I was living in my sins full time. It took me to give my life to Jesus.
Come on, sis.
For me to get out of this hatred for white people.
Listen, when I tell you that I am so here for all of this video, the one takeaway that I want to leave you guys with is, notice what she said at the end. She was like, the only thing that helped me and fix this was Jesus. Like, that darkened heart had to be replaced with a heart of flesh. Jesus had to come in and shine his light, shine it to where she was able to see her sin and then repent of it, turn her life to Christ. And then she was able to see clearly what the problem was, and that it wasn't the white people all along. Now, here's what I don't believe she is saying. I'm not speaking on her behalf, but I would feel confident in knowing that she would agree with this statement. She's not saying that white people are perfect and have done nothing wrong. Well, she's talking specifically about the white conservative and how she's never experienced anything adverse from them, and that white conservatives are not the problem, and that the treatment and the way that they are being treated by people in this country is shameful and wicked and sinful, and it's wrong. And I am so glad to see a Black sister in the Lord call this out, to actually publicly make such a vehicle, to publicly make such a video is so cathartic and therapeutic and healing. And a video like this has the potential to heal broken hearts and to just bring people together. Sometimes people just want to hear that you've done nothing wrong. If you're constantly told that you're the problem, you're the problem, you're the problem, and you're like, I know I've not done anything to these people, how am I the problem? Sometimes just hearing it and having that truth affirmed is all you need to release you from the guilt, the white guilt that you keep heaping upon yourselves. There is freedom in Jesus today. You do not need to walk around with the yoke of bondage around your neck, pushed onto you by other people who actually don't like you. So I found this video. I thought it was incredible. I wanted to react to it. Shout out to you, Ms. Foster. You are so amazing. You warmed my heart today. And I just wanted my entire audience, I wanted you guys to watch this with me. But I'm curious to know, how do you feel about a person publicly making a video like this? Right? Can't you sense the sincerity in her heart of the backlash she's gonna receive from this video? But do you think this is just manufactured? You know, Black people don't overwhelmingly hate white people, and white people are the problem. They are the ones that are racist. This is cap. She's just trying to get, a gold star or a gold medal, like whatever it is that you think. I am curious to hear from you. I loved this video. It is of my opinion that this is going to heal a lot of people and just restore a lot of brokenness that some people are experiencing. But I'm curious to know, whatever it is that you think, Leave me your comments down in the description box below. And until next.
Okay, April, Miss Chapman, not only will I leave, I'm not going to leave you a comment because I have all of my comments included in the video that I shared because I commend Miss Foster, and she did say her name was Cheryl Foster, I believe, if I got it right. And I commend her for what she did. And I believe she sincerely meant what she said. However, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And what she did, I would suggest she goes and gets some therapy because some people will hear that and they will take it to heart without doing any research themselves to find out that you just don't throw all Black people in the bus under the bus just because you had some hateful, evil, sinful ways about yourself as hating on white people. Like I said, I don't hate anybody. It's not in my heart to hate. I treat people the way I want to be treated in a righteous way. However, I've lived longer than both of you. I've had experiences I'm sure you haven't had. And I believe in telling it like it is. I don't sugarcoat it. I speak up and I speak out. And again, happy birthday to me at 75 years of age today. And I'm going to end this video because it's just about over anyhow. All she's saying is let her know and give her some comments or whatever. But I have to commend the young lady again because she hasn't experienced, I'm sure, because she looks very young. And there's a lot that obviously it appears to me that she has not done a lot of research and really probably doesn't know the history of Black descendants of slavery who were brought over here under chattel slavery. And I don't know whether you have either, April, in depth. And do you understand? Have you read some of the books that I've mentioned, like Dr. Joy DeGruy, the post-traumatic slave syndrome, Dr. Claude Anderson, Black Labor, White Wealth, Dr. Claude Anderson, Dirty Little Secrets, The Miseducation I think it's titled The Miseducation of the Black Man. I have the book. I can't remember whether it's is it Dr. Du Bois. I can't remember the author, but I do a lot of reading, and that's why I guess I can't remember. Plus, I'm an author myself. I authored a book about my challenges with my son when he was 14 and fighting cancer, and I'm not going to go into that at this time. However, the people that have followed me, and I thank you to all of my supporters, my subscribers, but I had to come in and address this because sometimes when we hear podcasters out here talking and people that have not done any research themselves and they jump on any bandwagon that comes along, they will take some of this stuff to heart. And that is what has created a lot of problems. You don't solve anything like that. You have to get to the root cause and why behaviors are the way they are and the symptoms of these behaviors and where they came from and the root cause of them. And that's what a lot of us are not doing. And I do research and I just don't speak off the top of my head because I have gone through a lot. So when I tell you something, many times it's based on my own personal experience in living for 75 years. And some people just come out here and just talk off the top of their head. As my grandmother would say, a lot of times it's a bunch of food talk, and some of us would rather listen to the food talk as opposed to listening to something that's going to elevate you spiritually, economically, emotionally, socially, mentally, physically, uh, intellectually. I mean, we should be listening, particularly us as Black people, because economically we're at the bottom. So we should be listening to something that's going to uplift and elevate us. So 50 or 60 years from now, you can leave a legacy and generational wealth for your children and your children's children. Start watching and listening to something that's going to elevate you in those kinds of ways, as opposed to some of these people out here just degrading one another. You don't hear other ethnic groups out here degrading others like we do as Black people, and we need to stop that. I mean, we're perishing for a lack of knowledge and a lack of unity, a lack of love, and we need to stop it. So, with that said, again, I'm Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour here. And I always love this scripture, 2 Peter 1 7, 2 Timothy, I'm sorry, 2 Timothy 1 7. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And you notice power comes before love in that scripture. And as Black people, we don't have any power to be racist. What power do we have collectively in this country? We don't. And that's what we need to work on. We need to work on empowering ourselves collectively. That's what we should be working on. And we should be listening to podcasters that are elevating us, not some of these podcasters out here that are degrading one another. We don't need that. We need unity. We need love. We need power, empowerment economically. We need spirituality because we know religionality has not gotten it, but maybe spirituality will. So with that said, again, please share, subscribe, leave your comments, and by all means, give it a like, thumbs up, and share, 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 because we need to hear this so that we can help to elevate one another and stop pulling one another down. And we should be loving one another and helping humanity. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Nobody should want to be treated harshly. Look at all this stuff that's going on in the Epstein files right now with all of these things. And who's in charge of that? Not Black people. Epstein was not Black. And you know who else is in there? A lot of prominent people that's in those files. And a lot of that stuff is kept from us, redacted, as they say. That's what has happened with a lot of it. So we may never know the truth of it. But again, Louise Hicks, that's who I am. And again, happy birthday to me. I'm 75 today, and I'm happy to say I'm not on any medication. I take good care of myself, and I do believe in the power of love. And with that said again, much love. And I will see you in the next video.